What's up, you guys? Me Tech Reviews back in another video. So today we're going to be talking about Dub 26, or I don't even know if it's called Dub 26, but Dub covering iOS 26, iPadOS 26, macOS 26 Tahoe. I don't know why I did that. And watchOS 26 and everything else that's going to be 26 now, and they're rebranding it. Pretty much the same thing that Samsung did with the S20 series. 2020 happened in the S20 series. So now Apple's a little late in the game, but now they're doing the iOS 26, not really going with their flagship phones being like iPhone 26. They're not doing that. Still gonna be the iPhone 17 lineup when it comes out, but who knows? We'll see. Be a little surprised it's called the iPhone 26 as well and keep everything at 26. Who knows? So today we're gonna cover mainly iPadOS, iOS, and macOS. Maybe a little bit of watchOS. Talk about that workout buddy thing. But nevertheless, let's get into the video. All right, so coming this fall, we have a new liquid glass design for the home screen and the lock screen and the apps and everything else. So what that means is everything's going to have a liquid glass look, and everything's going to be reflective and just transparent and look very modern and futuristic, very similar to visionOS, very similar to the leaks that we've seen from John Prosser at Front Page Tech and everywhere else. So I think it's a pretty cool look, and I'm looking forward to using it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about that new transparent look. And if readability and legibility is an issue, I have seen in the developer beta that there is a reduced transparency toggle, so that way there's more contrast and you can read the words on the screen better. Despite having that transparency, there are workarounds and accessibility features to make it not a problem for you and still enjoy that new modern look of iOS 26. So that's pretty cool. So in the Photos app, there is a library icon and a collection icon. Collection icon pretty much will have everything that we had in the old photo library that we all missed. Library icon obviously is all the photos that you've taken. And everything still keeps that clean liquid glass aesthetic look. We now have dynamic navigation, where everything just has that clean visionOS dynamic look. When you navigate, you now have the option to make all the icons completely transparent. And you can even add a tint transparency thing to the icons. There's also nice futuristic modern touch. That's pretty cool. So overall, it's a pretty nice, fresh design, and I dig it. All right, they did touch on Apple Intelligence a little bit, and they didn't mention Siri, and there's no question as to why. It's because Siri essentially flopped, and it was supposed to be contextually aware, supposed to be knowing what's on your screen, and pretty much be on the level of Gemini essentially, and compete with that. But it essentially got delayed and delayed and delayed, and to the point where it just couldn't make it. Apple failed in making a intelligent assistant that is capable of competing with Gemini and ChatGPT, which is why they have ChatGPT integrated into their software, because they simply just did not have the large language data models because of privacy centric stuff. They don't do anything on the cloud, and if they do it on the cloud, it's encrypted. They don't want to have your data and use everybody else's data, blah, 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 blah. Google is able to do this because they have lots of data that they can train their models on. ChatGPT is able to do this. OpenAI has a bunch of things that they can train their models on, but Apple doesn't have all those types of things that they can train their large language models on because they're so privacy eccentric. So they have to result and use other companies. And there was rumors about them integrating with Gemini, but that didn't happen. It wasn't announced. Maybe it'll be announced in another software update, maybe next year. Who knows? Who knows? So with Apple Intelligence, they now do have ChatGPT style images in Playground, which is pretty cool. And that'll be a lot better than whatever Apple was doing when they first announced that. And with ChatGPT style, who knows what that means, because ChatGPT doesn't actually have a style. You would usually go to ChatGPT, create a prompt, and ask it to create images and illustrations on certain styles. So hopefully this means that they just use their DALL-E models to do that, which would be pretty cool. There's more stuff with visual intelligence, which is pretty much copying everything that Google Lens does. Essentially, it's not really native to Apple, I would say, because with visual intelligence initially, you would pretty much be using Google Lens, ask ChatGPT. So it wouldn't be nothing that Apple themselves is doing. They're just integrating third-party applications to make that work for you. So we do have live translation. Live translation essentially is when you're texting someone in a different language, Apple Intelligence will automatically recognize that and translate it for you right off the bat, and then translate for them when you speak to them in English, recognizing the languages and all that stuff. And this is available for phone calls as well, I believe through FaceTime video calls or FaceTime audio calls as well. Not really sure about FaceTime audio, but they did demonstrate it in a FaceTime call where it's being live translated back and forth between Spanish and English, and everything is on device and pretty nice and private, as they always advertise things to be. So that's pretty cool that they can do that. Shortcuts is now getting a update with Apple Intelligence. There's lots of things you can do with that. Let's see here. We have call screening, which is something the Pixel has been doing, where you pretty much will have Apple Intelligence pick up the call for you, transcribe what they're saying to see if it's worth your while to pick up the phone call. And if you're on hold, Apple Intelligence can hold the call for you and then notify you when you're off hold so you can resume your phone call. That way you can do a bunch of other things in the background while you're waiting, which is pretty cool. And they also have this screening for messages, for like spam text messages, to approve or not approve the messages that you want from unknown numbers. A much welcomed feature as well. You do not have polls in group chats or just text messages in general, where if you're in a group chat, it can get kind of messy depending on how many people are in there. If you have a poll to vote on something you guys all want to agree on, that would be much more visually pleasing to look at and organize, honestly, when everybody can just vote on the poll and it's right there and everybody knows what they're agreeing on, versus reading different text messages from different people. And speaking of group chat, you do now have individual indicators of specific people in the group chat who are typing, so you can know who's typing. Just a nice little touch there. And with text messages in general, this is not groundbreaking or brand new, because Android has done this for years, but now you can now change the background in your text messages, kind of like I do with Facebook Messenger, where both people will see the same background, and you can just have fun with that, which is, I guess, pretty cool. Welcome feature, I guess. Apple Maps can now save and remember the places you visit. Something you can do with Google Maps if you always allow your location on with Google Maps and you're okay with them collecting your data like that. But now with Apple, it's more, I guess, private and encrypted, where my light died. But the show goes on. Now it's just gonna be a little darker in here. Let me make my light a little warmer. All right, there we go. So you can now enable this to visit places, quickly find great cafes and trips, share it with friends with a tap. Apple Intelligence. I wouldn't say this Apple Intelligence, because Apple Maps has been doing this for me with significant locations, where it knows where I'm going. It knows what time of day. It's like, for example, through the week, it knows that when I wake up, 7:15 or 6 o'clock, it knows I'm going to go to work, so it suggests work. And then after work, it suggests doggy daycare, so that's where I pick up my dog after work. And then if I have a client that day, it'll suggest me to go to the office to meet with the client, because it just knows and remembers my routines, and it'll just suggest those routes for me from remembrance, which is pretty cool. You now have auto mix and lyrics translation, which is pretty cool. I listen to a lot of anime music, especially for my workout playlist, and now I can finally read what I'm listening to and know what the lyrics are, versus just vibing to a language that I somewhat understand. I'm not gonna say somewhat understand, I don't understand. I just know the basic words. Yeah, you watch anime in sub, you can't just say you know Japanese, because you really don't, unless you have it all memorized like that. There is a new games app if you're into games. I'm not really into the mobile gaming like that, but there's a new games app specifically for gaming. No more Game Center, so they're done with that. So there's much more you can do. There's audio recording, so you can capture high quality audio during video conference calls, record a high definition camera with AirPods and AirPods Pro. So essentially you can record basically a video podcast if you wanted to in high quality. You can now use AirPod Pros as a camera control to take picture of the shutter. The Journal app will be on the iPad and macOS software now. So now you can use the Journal app not just on your iPhone, but on your other Apple devices, which they should have done in the first place. Photos app is updated to look much better. Reminders is smarter. Apple Intelligence will scan through your emails and texts and just add reminders that it thinks that you need to be reminded of based on the stuff that's in there. You have a new clock app, new snooze stuff. CarPlay is updated with the new liquid glass looking clean and fresh, which is very much welcomed. Hopefully it's not buggy, and just overall just well improved, because my Toyota Camry, it is kind of buggy, but I think that's just the Camry and not really so much CarPlay. But yeah, that is iOS 26 in a nutshell. and I've yet to touch on iPadOS and macOS, so I'll probably make a separate video for that. Let me know in the comments below what you think of iOS 26. Is it a welcome update? Are you excited for it? I do wish that the lock screen is more customizable. You do have the clock, you can change the size of that. It adjusts your wallpaper, all that's cool. But they can probably do this on device, maybe, I don't know, but I know Google does it still with their Pixels, where it can listen to songs in the background and on device will tell you what's playing. With Apple owning Shazam, I wish they could do that with Shazam, just have Shazam maybe just toggle the mic always listening so it can just tell you what's playing in the background through your lock screen or the always on display. I wish that was a feature they would have added on there as well. I do wish there was some Gemini integration. I do wish there was an update to the keyboard where you can have numbers on the keyboard as well. I do wish there was better GIF incorporation into the keyboard, like the Google keyboard and Swift keyboard. I do wish there was better GIFs, I guess, because the images GIFs from the messaging app, it's okay, but I think Google Gboard did it better because there's more options, I guess, per se. But overall, the overhaul from iOS 26, it looks pretty good, and looking forward to trying it out when the public beta comes out. Let me know in the comments below what you think of iOS 26. I'm going to be making a video about iPadOS 26, and macOS 26, and watchOS 26. Get my thoughts about that, and then a video going over my long-term review of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So stay tuned for that as well. Lots of videos coming your way. Sorry for the delay, but now that it's summertime, I'm going to be grinding out some videos for you guys. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Peace.